I was a student of Dr. Deese's. I'm from Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey. Grew up there, was born and raised there. Currently, I reside in San Diego. I took a job immediately after graduating from TCNJ with the Department of Defense out there. And I now work for Illumina Incorporated. And what we do there is we develop DNA sequencer instruments. Right now, I am a firmware test engineer. And a fun fact from college. So I often rode my bike and jogged along the Delaware River path there. So there's a cool canal path right along the Delaware River that goes for about 100 miles. So it's very accessible from the college and fun.
All right, thanks, Pat. And next, Teresa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Teresa. I graduated from the computer engineering program in 2018, and since then I have been working at AT&T as a software engineer. So my hometown was Hackettstown, New Jersey, which is in like Northwest New Jersey, but now I actually live closer to Edison, New Jersey, and Woodbridge, if more of you are familiar with that area. So my senior year, I worked on a project with what are called NAO robots, which are like humanoid robots. And so what we did was kind of visually and orally through the NAO robot was able to control it as our project that we worked on. So fun fact from college days, I was actually president of our chapter of the IEEE, which is a professional organization for electrical and computer engineers. And also during my time there, I was able to complete an interactive multimedia minor, which for those of you who don't know, it's kind of just like a major that people take for, you know, if they're interested in kind of like, I guess like graphic design crossed with like game design, crossed with web design, things like that, of that nature. So I got to take a couple classes in that, which was fun.
Thanks. And Hussein.
Okay, I'm Hussein. I graduated this May, and I'm originally from North Brunswick, New Jersey, which is like a town right in the smack of Central Jersey. I'm supposed to be in Chicago right now, but I'm working from Hawaii. Going off of that, I'm a first-year PhD student at Northwestern University. My research is mostly in the intersection of hardware and software. I work where compilers generate code for different kind of computer architectures. My senior project was a custom hardware processor for accelerating neural networks. And a fun fact from my college days was I was both an EMT and an RA while I was in school. And I was also a founding member of TCNJ's engineering fraternity, Theta Tau.
Thank you. So next, we're going to do a really quick overview of our department. I'm sure some other questions will be asked about it later, and I'll let the alumni, they know as much as anybody else about our department. I'll let them field some of those questions. But really quickly, I wanted to start off by talking or asking the question, why choose ECE at TCNJ? I think, you know, one of the biggest differences is really us being a smaller program as compared to a lot of the larger, what we call R1 programs that are in New Jersey. Rutgers is, I'm sure, an option for a lot of you, or Drexel, or, you know, any of those larger programs. So first and foremost, we provide a high quality, hands-on electrical and computer engineering education with a focus on undergraduate learning and research. We value the role of undergraduates because we are an undergraduate institution only, obviously. And because of our size, this facilitates a more personalized approach to engineering education. The faculty teach all of the courses. We don't use TAs. The faculty meet with the students every semester in order to mentor them about courses for the next semester or internship opportunities. And because our faculty are invested in every student's success, because our faculty are invested in every student's success, we have a significant focus on high quality undergraduate education. And so again, another two bullets, why choose ECE at TCNJ? I think the most important one is because our students, as you'll see here, move on to top positions in industry and academia, and we're very proud of that. So the degrees that we offer, we are ABET accredited, which is the Accreditation Board of Engineering Technology, for both Bachelor of Science in Electrical as well as Computer Engineering. There's also an engineering science option, which we're not going to have an opportunity to talk too much about today, but we do offer that. And as far as a sample curriculum, I mean, this is very broad strokes here, but in your first year, you have a lot of general science and mathematics courses, obviously your physics and your calculus, as well as some introduction to engineering and computer science. In the second year, you move into circuit analysis, electronics, signals and systems, sort of the introductory ECE courses. And then the third and fourth years, we take that to the next level: control systems, wireless communications, computer architecture, signal processing, and more advanced topics, as well as a really robust selection of technical electives, which has been growing and is probably a lot larger than, let's say, what we had when Pat was with us, was a student. So what do electrical and computer engineers do? And I'm sure that our panelists will do a much better job of explaining this, but in general, we as engineers, electrical and computer engineers, apply theory from the physical sciences, computer science, and mathematics associated with electricity, electronics, electromagnetism to solve real world problems through the development of innovative solutions. And we have to consider as engineers cost, reliability, safety, as well as ethics. We simulate, design, build, and test new hardware and software solutions. We work with the most cutting edge technologies like 5G wireless, artificial intelligence, and robotics. And then we also analyze product costs, predicted revenue, feasibility, manufacturing methods, and all of the more practical aspects of developing products and supporting products. Now, what are some areas of expertise or specialty that we have within electrical and computer engineering? These are just some. And at TCNJ, we don't really ask our students to choose a track or a specialty. We believe in a more robust and broad engineering education. So our students could focus on one of these through their senior projects and the electives that they take, or they could choose to have more variety in their education. So we have controls, which is the design of controllers that give systems more ideal behavior. Machine learning and neural networks, which is a very hot area right now. Development of algorithms and models that computers use to perform advanced analyses without explicit instructions. Microprocessor design, the design and analysis of circuits that employ VLSI, very large scale integration technology, making things very small. RF wireless communications, robotics, and then signal processing, which is the analysis of signals to improve quality, perform encryption, or achieve compression. And then employment, we're very proud of our students, our alumni that are at the top industry companies in the United States and the world. Obviously, we have two examples here, AT&T and Illumina Inc. We also have students that have worked at Apple, Facebook, Twitter, Google, Lockheed Martin, and the list goes on. Some of those positions are local and some are on the West Coast or another part of the world. And so we can come back to this slide if there's specific questions, but I want to make sure to try to get to the panel as quickly as possible. And then graduate studies. So we do have a significant portion of our students that move on to graduate work. And the ones I highlighted in yellow are actually the institutions that I know we have students in right now or recently just graduated. Obviously, Hussein's at Northwestern University. We had two recent graduates from Princeton, the University of Arizona. We have another one that just started at Georgia Tech. And these are some of the most prestigious graduate institutions in the country, if not the world. And this is only the last couple of years. So I'm trying to keep it relatively short. So I think this is the last slide I have on my introduction here. Why pick our major, ECE? It appears twice on the 10 highest paying college majors. I found this, it was a pay scale article. Both number 2 and number 7, they actually gave electrical power engineering its own entry. But overall, there's a great demand for ECE graduates. I don't think that our alumni have any trouble finding positions, and that's a testament to our education, as well as, again, that great demand for ECE, electrical and computer engineers. We have the opportunity to work with the most cutting edge technologies, allows us to work with computer science as well as the more physical aspects of engineering. And the scientific, mathematical, and problem solving expertise that we get as electrical and computer engineers, I really believe that that applies to many fields, including some that have relatively nothing to do with engineering. I have several colleagues or former friends from graduate school that work in finance, developing financial or mathematical models for finance purposes. And so that may not necessarily be your goal, but there's a lot of opportunities in all different aspects of industry and academia. So we will move on to the panel right now. We have it split up into two different sections, one where I will ask the panelists questions and one where the audience will ask the panelists questions. But I think it probably makes the most sense if the audience using the chat starts typing their questions in now. So I'll ask a couple starter questions to get the ball rolling. And then hopefully as questions start to come into the chat window, I'll switch more over to questions that come from the audience. Okay, so first question for the panel. What are you most proud of from your TCNJ experience?
I guess I can start off.
Okay.
So I mentioned that I did a senior project where I got to work with these humanoid little robots. And that was kind of a nice thing because it was also a culmination of some of the research that I got to do while I was at TCNJ, which is another kind of cool thing you can do at TCNJ. Being a smaller institution, they do have research opportunities there that you can take advantage of. And so I worked with a professor who was dealing with robotics. And so for our senior project, to go into a little more detail, we kind of got to use like a simple Google Cardboard VR headset, and like doing some code like through the NAO Robot, we were able to generate the image coming from the robot through that VR headset, and also be able to listen through headphones whatever the robot was hearing. And so that was like a really interesting, cool project that we were able to do, and it was fun too, just because we got to do like a video for it too that kind of showcased how it worked. And so it was a great experience kind of working with some of my classmates who I'd been in the program with for a while, and also just working on something interesting.
Great. Did anybody else want to chime in on this question, or should I just toss out another one?
I can jump in as well.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I'm most proud of is mastering all the tools that we learned how to use. One of them being MATLAB. We use that a lot today, you know, in the workforce. Not only that, but also some of the IDEs that we learned to use. Just mastering those, they help me substantially, you know, moving into industry and in practice, really.
Okay. Well, there's some questions that are pouring in, but I'm gonna throw out another one for you guys from my list. I think this is one you can really sink your teeth into. Tell us about your current position. So, you know, what's your daily schedule like? What project are you specifically working on right now? And what opportunities do you sort of see that bringing for you? And I'm hoping that all the panelists can comment on this one. We'll start off with Pat. You're already on the screen, or
yeah, no problem. So talk about what I do now. So I work in a smaller team. I work on the embedded systems team at Illumina. So what we do is we basically design, develop, and test integrated systems that end up sequencing DNA. Now, some of you might have heard of 23andMe or Ancestry.com. Those are some of the direct to consumer products that we developed. But underneath that is a technology that actually sequences your DNA. So with that, it's basically a big box that kind of looks like a big laser printer that could sit on a desk. But there's lots of moving pieces in there. There's lasers, there's cameras, there's lots of chemistry going on. And with that hardware, something needs to control it, right? So what my team does is we basically piece together the circuits and we write the embedded software that does all that controlling and makes the system actually work. So yeah, that's my day-to-day. My day-to-day tasks are automating that hardware and verifying it.
Interesting. Teresa, you want to go next? I'll try to guide it a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned that I work as a software engineer at AT&T. So when I first graduated, I entered into a program called the Technology Development Program, which is specifically for college graduates. And so the program basically works as almost like a internal contracting group, I guess, to the rest of the company. So other teams at AT&T would come to our organization and say, I need an extra software engineer on this project. Can you give me one? And so like people will work on, it's a great way to kind of get the chance to work on different projects. And kind of like also a way for the business to fit, to find people to fill business needs. So, you know, like teams that are lacking people will be able to find people from our organization to work on those projects. And so when I first started, I was actually mainly doing pretty much just web development, since like I joined on the software engineering track. There's also a like networking track that people can join, which ECE majors could also join as well. But I chose to go with the software side of things. And so I was mainly doing web development when I first started, which was kind of an interesting learning opportunity for me since I hadn't really done a lot of that before. But then more recently, I started on a project where I am doing kind of more network analytics work. And so it was interesting because, you know, I was hearing a lot of the same terms that I'd learned back in college, like the throughput, like bandwidth, things like that. But I was kind of doing like data and statistical analysis on that, on the data coming in through our cell towers and trying to help that organization improve their performance through the cell towers. And so that's kind of the group that I've been more recently working with.
And Hussein?
Yeah, so at Northwestern, I've been working ever since I got here. My advisor put me on the time squeezing project, which is sort of like a new processor designed for extremely low power workloads. So like for your embedded sensors and things that you can't charge frequently. Basically, I've been working on the compiler team, which sort of generates instructions to tell the architecture when to power off and when to power on. And that's sort of been our thrust that we've been working for the past few months. We got funded by the NSF for this work, so that's been what's paying my stipend. And in terms of schedule, being a grad student's great because I don't really have to check in at any particular point. But because we have a lot of work to do, that you usually have to set that schedule for yourself. But aside from going to class and like the regular weekly meetings, I don't really have to be like on at a certain time, which is nice.
Would you mind talking for a second about sort of the way graduate education works in engineering? You know, the TA, RA,
absolutely,
all that type of stuff.
Yeah. So typically what happens is your first year, you kind of get a feel for the different things that professors work on. And you sort of try to see, okay, I kind of want to work in this particular subtopic. So you find an advisor and you start working with that advisor on special research projects, and you sort of get a feel for it. And then so that's sort of what your first to 2 years, well, 1 to 2 years look like. At the same time, you're taking graduate classes, usually to fulfill like a basic requirement on half of the department. After your first 2 years, you've completed what's known as your master's phase, and you've completed pretty much what is the master's portion of your PhD. And after that point, you start becoming a PhD prospectus, where you outline something, new knowledge that you want to create as part of your PhD. And this is what you're going to be working on for the rest of your degree. And usually during that time, you work as a researcher assistant or a teaching assistant to help pay the bills. And usually you'll just TA for your advisor, or you just work on projects that your advisor wants you to work on. Once you pass your PhD prospectus, you sort of work on finishing your dissertation. And your dissertation is sort of the story of your PhD, in a sense, where it's the knowledge you've created as your part of your PhD and the research you've generated. And at the end of your PhD prospectus period, you defend your dissertation. And if your dissertation is approved by a committee, you become a PhD.
Great. One thing I wanted to highlight is most ECE graduate students don't pay anything. You get paid, which is different from a lot of other majors. Okay, so the next question I wanted, this is from the participants, from the audience. It asks, I'm going to throw this out to both electrical and computer engineering students, and it asks, are there internship opportunities for electrical and computer engineering students? Maybe I could switch that just a little bit and say, are there internship opportunities for EC students, and what was your experience with internships outside of, not related to your current position?
Yeah, I could take that first. It's all right. So one of the most memorable, I had a few internships. One of the most memorable ones was going into my senior year. I actually worked for a division of Zodiac Aerospace right in New Jersey called Innovative Power Solutions. So what we did was we developed aircraft generators there. So that was really cool hands-on work. Yeah, I was lucky to have that type of internship that only lasted about 3 or 4 months. They ended up offering me a full-time job after that, but I ended up moving on to a different opportunity. So that was really neat.
Great. Anybody else want to tackle that one?
Yeah, I can go into that. So one of the nice things about being an engineering student is that there is a special kind of sector of the career fairs that we have that's specifically catered towards people in computer science and engineering. And so you could go to that portion of the career fair, and there are a lot of companies that are in New Jersey that go there. So my junior year, I interned at Bloomberg in the Princeton office. And so that with that, I got to work in their global data department, and I did a lot of kind of like automation work. And then I got to do a big group project with some interns that where we did kind of like a machine learning thing actually. And so that was kind of an interesting experience. But then my senior year, also through the career fair, I ended up getting my interview and position through AT&T because there's an office in Middletown, New Jersey, where they also like to come to TCNJ to recruit people from there. So.
Great. I'm going to quickly answer just one question that came up, explain the difference between, well, what is an R1? So an R1 is just generally a term, research one, a term used to describe very large institutions that have master's and doctoral programs and very, very large research programs. And so we're a smaller institution. We're undergraduate focused, but we do have a very active, obviously education, but as well as research program. So that's the main difference right there. Okay. So this is a really good one. Why did you choose TCNJ? How did TCNJ prepare you for your career? And did the location of TCNJ make internships more accessible?
I can go. So I remember after looking at the different college offers that I had, basically deciding it was more reasonable to go to a public institution because of money reasons, right? And so I was deciding between Rutgers and TCNJ because those are, kind of the two biggest public colleges in our state. And I remember I initially had, I first visited Rutgers and kind of didn't really like the vibe there, but was assuming that I was going to end up going there just because it is a bigger school and they have a bigger program there for engineering. But then I remember later I decided I would visit TCNJ just to see what it was like. And honestly, it was kind of just the vibe that I got at TCNJ that I liked the small college feel a lot more. And I think I like the idea of, having kind of more personal time with your professors, and the fact that I do honestly enjoy the fact that it's a liberal arts college so that you also have the opportunity to take those other classes outside of engineering and kind of like, take other classes that broaden your horizons and make you kind of a more well-rounded person, I guess. So that's kind of what sold TCNJ for me over going to Rutgers.
Anyone else? This is a really good question. Why did you choose TCNJ?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say it was pretty much the same deal for me. I was stuck between Rutgers and TCNJ, and coming from a really big high school, I was leaning more towards a small school. So once I did my actual campus visit to TCNJ, I was pretty much sold. And just the idea of like being in smaller classes where you actually have professors instead of TAs was a huge selling point for me. And when I first started, I actually was joining mostly because I wanted to play on the hockey team, but pretty quickly after the first year of engineering, I had to give that up. So that was fun.
All right.
Yeah, I can go real quick as well. Yeah, I mainly chose it because it was a smaller school as well, and I kind of wanted, you know, to not just be a number, to be able to engage with my professors and have feedback and whatnot. One thing about the location, I think that does really help out, especially with internships and jobs. Just staying in New Jersey in general is a great thing. But TCNJ is right by Philadelphia as well, so you get these big industrial hubs in Philadelphia and New York City as well. So I think that does help out a lot. And another thing was I was able to commute, my first year going to TCNJ, so that saved a lot of money as well.
So next, I'd like to pick one from my list of questions. Perhaps you could spend a second talking about your favorite class, professor, academic experience. I know they'll all be me, but will exclude me from the conversation for the moment. Joking, obviously. So what would you say is that favorite class, academic experience at TCNJ?
I can go. The first class that comes to mind was the microcontroller class that I took with Dr. Hernandez, and that's mainly because that's what's most applicable to me today. We got hands-on experience with a system on a chip in that class. I don't know if you guys still do that exact course, Dr. Deese, maybe you could talk to that a little bit. But it was, we basically had an ARM processor that was sitting on top of an FPGA that we got to play with there. So that was pretty cool doing C programming on hardware there, because that's kind of exactly what my group does now. So that was a great experience with that class.
Anyone else? We have tons of questions, so we don't have to get everyone's input on all of them.
I think my favorite was the computer architecture class with Dr. Kim, just because it broke that black box idea I had of how processors worked. And that sort of really put me on the path towards like doing research in computer architecture. So I have to credit that as like one of my favorite classes I took at TCNJ.
I enjoyed that class as well. I also wanted to add that I liked embedded systems with, I think it was Pearlstein, just because I thought it was kind of a cool combination of like electrical and the computer side of things, right? Where you get to work with the hardware, but also do the coding behind it. So I thought that was kind of an interesting class as well.
Great. So if I just summarize, it seems like a really good response from that more hands-on courses, which we have a lot of here at TCNJ. Very laboratory focused, project focused, and that's definitely something we pride ourselves on. So some of these questions are a little bit harder to answer, but I'll ask it maybe in a specific way. So the question was, is the demand, are jobs in demand, or is there a high demand for electrical and computer engineers? And maybe you could talk about that in terms of how your job search or your search for graduate school went, and what sort of interest you saw right away. Did you feel like there was a lot of demand for your skill sets?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned like, people, a lot of companies, like especially the ones that are local to New Jersey, will come to our career fair because they really, they do value like the engineering students that come out of our program, as well as like some of the other schools in our area. And I would say too that like I think you were mentioning earlier, Deese, how even if you don't end up in like a specifically computer or electrical engineering related career, I do think that having that degree really sets you up to almost go in any direction you want to go, just because I think there's definitely a lot of respect for people who end up, graduating with this degree. You go through a lot. You have to take a lot of intense courses, and so people know that you having this degree means that you know how to learn, you know how to work hard, and so I think that that kind of translates to any position that you want to get. And so even if it's not necessarily something related to electrical or computer engineering, which there definitely is a high demand for those specific careers, especially I think in our current kind of situation with the pandemic, a lot of people need people in those jobs, and those jobs are the most secure probably right now. That, I think just having that degree really sets you up for success.
Anybody else want to talk about their experience searching for positions and whether you thought the demand was good or high?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I had several job offers. Most of them were within New Jersey, but I ended up taking the one that I had out in California. But yeah, huge. Just all the hands-on experience that we were just talking about. It's honestly, you can't compare that to what you'll get at a bigger school where a lot of the courses are just theory and not practice. TCNJ has some great lab equipment that we got to touch and feel every day, which was huge. Just being able to use a digital multimeter well, and then use an oscilloscope. Coming from the electrical engineering side of things, that was just great, and really can't put a price on that. So when you just talk about those experiences, when you're in an interview and show that you know how to use those tools, you're going to have the upper hand, especially when you're going for an opportunity right out of school.
Speaking from the grad school side of things, having the TCNJ degree really helped because it's very rare to go through a program where you get experience in both hardware and software, and research professors really value that. So that made my grad school search very, very easy. So I will love to credit TCNJ for giving me experience in both being able to build hardware and the software that controls it.
Great. So switching gears just a little bit, there was a question about extracurricular activities at TCNJ, how that fit in with your workload, which obviously is heavier on, in the general, when you look at it from a more general point of view. But did you have an opportunity to participate in lots of extracurriculars while you were at TCNJ? How was your social life and sort of the general enjoyment of the college experience?
Yeah, I could talk to that. So there was actually a couple semesters where I was able to, work an internship while I was taking courses. So that was a really good experience, being able to balance that. So that was one example of an extracurricular activity. Another one, there's some great clubs on campus. There was an outdoors club when I was there, that was really cool. We did like some river floats on the Delaware River. That was very fun, getting to, meet other students that were in different programs there. TCNJ's got a beautiful campus, so there's always, stuff to do on the campus and hang out. Also talking about just the location as well. You got Washington's Crossing Park. That's like maybe 10 minutes away, when, that's the historic site when like Washington crossed the Delaware River. So there's some beautiful outdoor spaces that if you want to get out there, you're an outdoorsy person, it's a really cool place. You're not just going to be locked on the campus. So when you are on site there, at least.
Great. Anybody else want to talk about extracurriculars?
Yeah. In terms of extracurriculars, like at TCNJ, the sky really is the limit. I mean, and it's you learn to manage it with your course load fairly well. My first 2 years, I kind of went more on the sports route. I played for both the ice hockey team and I rowed on the crew team. And then after that, I did more like EMS and RA, and it was so much fun to be able to supplement like what you do in engineering out and stuff outside of that. It was a lot of fun. And the really nice thing about TCNJ is that if you have like a specific interest that you can't really find a club for, it's so easy to start a club yourself and get it approved. It really is a lot of fun.
All right. So there was a question that was a little bit of overlap of one I already asked, but I think it's different enough to bring up again. It specifically is asking, what do you do for work? Not what your job title is, but maybe just like and probably pre-COVID might be a little bit better of a description, an hour by hour, sort of what is your day like? Getting up, do you work in an office? Are you on a computer? Are you hands-on with a project, actually, touching hardware and soldering, building things? And I know that's going to differ from position to position. So
Yeah, so for me, since I work as a software engineer, pretty much all of my work is on a computer. And so like kind of like, I guess to talk more about my current situation working, I have actually been working remotely from my apartment since March of last year, or this year, I guess. Yeah, it feels like so long ago, March of this year. And it looks like I'm not supposed to return until middle of 2021. And so really like the nature of my work, most people can do just from their own home, like using their work laptop. And so, I mean, I guess I don't get like hands-on with the hardware just because that's not really the nature of my work. But there is definitely a lot of, like communication, like over, phone calls, video calls. And so like, we've kind of just learned to work that way virtually with our current situation.
Yeah, I could talk a little bit now. So yeah, I'm on site because I work with a lot of hardware, but when I don't actually need to go in and I'm just programming or doing something that remotely, I can actually work from home. So my day-to-day work, it's actually very multidisciplinary. So I work with a lot of different teams as far as mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, various different scientists and other software engineers, because we're working on a large integrated system, right? So being part of the firmware team on the embedded systems group, we actually touch every single part of the system, right? Because we are developing the code that controls all the motors and every piece of hardware in the system. So it's really an invaluable experience for me right now, especially this early in my career, just being able to speak the language of the other mechanical engineers and the other types of the other flavors of scientists out there. So yeah, day-to-day work includes programming in Python. I do a lot of hands-on work because when we're moving different hardware, we have to kind of just do visual checks just to make sure it's responding the way that we think it's responding. So yeah.
Yeah, so as a grad student, my work is a lot like Teresa's right now. I mostly just write software since I'm on the compiler team. But being a grad student requires a huge communication piece. And so occasionally I'll have to give a talk or a tutorial to the larger systems group at Northwestern. And so that there's a lot of video calls and meetings that go along with that. But being virtual makes it fairly manageable, which is nice.
Great. And just to add one little quick thing here, I mean, what you do from day to day, a lot of it depends on the field that you're in. And so if you work in a field like power systems or renewable energy, I mean, that could be something where you're outside all day, almost every day. So depending on what flavor or what your preferred mode of work is, there's definitely something in EC that would fit that. And it's very collaborative, very team-based. So you're always going to be interacting with tons of your coworkers in a very positive way. Okay. So this next question asks, and you probably have to draw from your memory here, What companies typically recruit at TCNJ? We did have the one slide that talked about that, but from your memory, do you remember the career fairs, what companies were there? This is a hard one, I know.
Yeah, I mean, so both of my, I guess, like main work experiences were at the career fair. So like Bloomberg, my internship before, and then my current position now at AT&T, they recruit from there. I do remember also, I think there was like Lockheed definitely recruits from us. Trying to think of other ones. I think LGS is a company in New Jersey. I think that recruits from us. I think now they're called Khaki, but I have a friend who works there. I know someone who works for the Navy. I don't think they explicitly come to the career fair, but you know, most like defense contracting or like positions with the government are pretty accessible to us. I don't know if you guys remember some other ones.
I remember Lockheed being a big one at the career fair for ECE, and I know a lot of TCNJ ECE graduates go to work for Lockheed. More recently, like in March, I don't know if they were at the career fair, but NVIDIA reached out to me and a couple other people in my lab, so I think they're also starting to look towards TCNJ too now.
Great. You know, this is a hard question to answer. Obviously, it's been a couple of years since many of you have been in the career fair, but you know, that's not the only way that our students get positions. As you can see, you know, working at AT&T and various companies, there's plenty of opportunities outside of just what's there at the career fair recruiting. All right, so how about a fun one? What do you like the most about your work? What's the most fun aspect of the work that you're doing now?
For me, it's going to sound kind of sad, but I really like the people that I work with. And so it's kind of sad for me to be working from home because I miss seeing them in the office. Because, you know, you kind of can't get the same like social aspect that you do from working at home. You have to explicitly call someone if you want to talk to them versus like you could just walk to like the back pantry and then someone will be there that you can chat with. But I've really met a lot of great people working at AT&T. That's kind of one of the things I think that everyone can kind of agree on. You know, people there really willing to work with each other, help each other learn, and just have fun together. So.
Yeah, just to follow up on that as well, I think the people really make it good for me too. You know, Illumina hires very motivated people. You know, there's actually a couple of different, there's a couple people from TCNJ work in my company in San Diego, believe it or not. But yeah, just the fast-paced nature and problem solving that we do every day, just collaborating to resolve complex issues is just very rewarding to me. And we do that every day.
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, my team at Northwestern has been absolutely fantastic. I mean, even though I was a little weaker on the software side when I first came in, they've easily helped me get up to speed, and just the thrill of working on the cool projects that we are just makes it worth it every day.
So I do want to invite everyone who's in the audience to please throw some more questions out there. If you're thinking about it, we have about 15 minutes left, and I'm hoping to get those last few in there. So next question that I'd like to ask is, so many good ones. Well, how would you describe your experience at TCNJ? And I think all of you have talked a lot about the academic end of things. Maybe you could talk a little bit about, you know, the culture. What I mean by that is just sort of like the small setting, and, you know, there's sort of a culture to Armstrong Hall almost of, you know, everyone hanging out and doing work and stuff like that. Obviously, extracurriculars would kind of play in there, and just, you know, living experiences at TCNJ, maybe just the overall package of TCNJ.
Right. Especially within the ECE department, you know, you're a very, you're a small, tightly knit group. You're going to have a bunch of really close friends that, you might stay up late studying with and just, exchanging laughs with. That's really was a huge testament to the school and the program, or just, how all the similarities that I had with the classmates. So you're going to have friends you're going to make friends at this school that will basically last a lifetime. And they'll help you get through the program. So I think that's one of the biggest things. It's easy to fit in at TCNJ. That was one thing.
Yeah, to kind of go off of that too, especially in the ECE program, at least when I was there, it was only like a class of like 20 to 30 people. So I kind of very quickly made like a set group of friends who like I would do like all of my homework, all of my like labs and projects with. And so I spent so much time with those guys, and I'm still really close friends with them to this day. And so, definitely having that, the fact that it's a smaller college, you're going to be taking a lot of the same classes together, being with a lot of the same people. You kind of have to make friends with some of them, I feel like. And so, they're definitely some of my closest friends that I have to this day. Outside of that, I mean, it's cool at TCNJ that, it's kind of like, since it's small, it's kind of easy to like start interacting with some of the same people if you want to. Like, I kept in close touch with like people that I lived with my freshman year. I also made some close friends with people that I lived with. My senior year, I lived in a house off campus with a couple people, and then it was pretty easy for me to kind of like become friends with like their friend group. And so I don't know, you kind of can easily like reach into other friend groups if you want to outside of engineering. There's a lot of fun events that they have like a special club too at TCNJ where they put on like concerts and things. And so you can start seeing like really big name acts for like $5 at these concerts, which is like a fun thing that people go to. And then there's like a lot of other events that they host too. And it's nice since it's a small college, there's not as many people that are going to be there. So, you can kind of take part in the event more, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It's a fun time.
All right. So we are getting close to the end here. A lot of questions pouring here at the last second. So what I would like to do is ask all the panelists if they could close by giving us 1 or 2 minutes on your advice for incoming college students, those that have an interest in ECE, hopefully why you feel TCNJ is a good choice for them, and just anything you wanted to sort of say about your position or your experience that you haven't had a chance to say so far. So I'll hand it over to you guys. Hussein, you want to go first? I'll just, for the sake of keeping order.
Oh, did you say me?
Yeah, Hussein, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So my biggest piece of advice is just put yourself out there, whether that's academically or, in any extracurricular you want to do. I started off as a biomedical engineer thinking I wanted to go to medical school, and now I'm doing a first-year PhD program in computer engineering. So don't fix yourself to something you think you have to do. Just go with whatever motivates you, whatever excites you. And even if it seems hard at first, just push through it. The faculty at TCNJ and your peers are always there to help. So there's nothing that you really can't do. So that's just my biggest thing. Just put yourself out there.
Yeah, I would kind of
Teresa?
echo off. Oh, sure. I would kind of echo off of that too. It definitely takes like some strong will and hard work to get through the engineering program at any school, I would say. But I think, just don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. A lot of the professors are very willing to help you out if you need it. A lot of them have like pretty good open door policies. I remember, if I had trouble with an assignment, instead of just, trying to spend hours like staring at the problem, like just go ask for help so that you don't, make yourself upset over it. There's always people who are willing to help you get through it if you're willing to ask. And I would also just kind of say, in terms of other advice, don't just keep your head down in the books all the time. I feel like you should definitely enjoy your experience while you're there. And also just, you know, learn to communicate with other people. I feel like that's also just a really valuable thing to have in any career. And that's something that I think a lot of engineers could work on too. So.
And Pat?
Yeah. Yeah, I think probably the best advice I could give, especially just going into college out of high school, is stay as busy as possible. You know, get involved with extracurriculars and stuff. If you're just have your heads down in the books, like Teresa said, it's not going to be a good time for you, and you might not even do as well as you would if you had you know, support groups, you know, to keep your you know, just keep yourself happy. Really, that's the point there. So yeah, reach out, network with people in other majors. That's something huge as well. You know, when you go out in the workforce, you're not just going to be, you know, you're most likely you're not just going to be like head down doing your work. You're going to be interacting with others, with other disciplines. So be bubbly, meet other people, and really just have fun. You know, TCNJ is a great place, and you're going to enjoy it, honestly. Yeah.
Great. So I'm going to do a share screen here real quick just to show some last information here, final information. So we invite you to submit the common application. We accept that. The early decision to deadline is January 1st, 2021, and the general admission is due February 1st, 2021. And I'm going to actually, in a second, copy and paste these into the chat as well. But if you have questions for me, you can email me at deese@tcnj.edu. Email for non-engineering questions. We have the admissions email, and then we have our website as well. And I'll copy and paste all of those. I also, stop the screen share, sorry. I'm also going to copy and paste a little video that we made that, that shows a little bit of Armstrong Hall. I know that it's with coronavirus and everything, it's not the best time to get out and see things. So if you want to take a look at that, you can click on the link here, and this is okay. Well, I was going to try to screen share it, but it wasn't working. Anyway, so we have just 1 or 2 minutes left, and there was actually 1 or 2 really interesting questions. So I was hoping maybe we could do a quick, if one person could answer these. One of the questions was, is it still possible to do a double major while doing electrical engineering? I can answer that. Yes, it is. We have 1 double major right now. We've had many in the past who's doing computer science and electrical engineering. And then the other question was, what makes TCNJ a better fit for electrical engineering than a more tech-oriented school? I'd like to chime in there. We are a very tech-oriented school. I think what the participant meant was maybe a larger graduate program. Does anybody want to tackle that one real quick? I don't think we have time for all 3 to do it.
Oh yeah, I can chime in real quick. I think just back to just the lab work and the access to equipment that we had, lab equipment, really, right? When a small class, you know, you're gonna be able to have one-on-one time with your professor. You know, if you need help with your code, your professor's going to be there for you. At a bigger school, you know, that might not be the case. You might you know, get a TA that's helping you out, who maybe isn't as experienced as a professor. You know, so here you have a lot of experience. Will be, you know, will allow you to get through the program.
Another quick fire question here. What is a diversity like at TCNJ? What are I'm not sure if these two questions are related. What were the courses and classes that helped you the most? Anybody want to try to tackle that one real quick? I think they seem like they're kind of disjoint.
I could chime in a bit on it. I think the diversity at TCNJ is definitely growing. I know that like that's kind of a thing that people have talked about a bit in the past, but I think definitely, you know, we're seeing, you know, more students from, you know, like lower income or other races that are able to, you know, have access to higher education now. And so I think there's a lot of that opportunity now at TCNJ, especially because they have like a Bonner program specifically for people who are interested in, you know, like volunteering and giving back to their community. And there's also a program that, you know, helps students that need it financially. And so, yeah, I think the diversity there is definitely growing. And there's also a lot of specific communities and clubs too that are dedicated to different minority groups and different cultures. And so, you know, even if you feel like you're not getting it maybe in your classes, you can still find like those groups of people in other places on the campus if you just look for it. So.
Yeah, I'm just flashing some pictures I have of students, and it gives you a little bit of a taste of, you know, our growing diversity at TCNJ, and also some of the projects you can see them working on. Just some, this is the NAO Robot that Teresa, you were talking about in your part here. Okay. So it's 7:59. I just wanted to close. Thank you to all the panelists for joining us. We really appreciate it. Hopefully that's been very helpful. Again, congratulations on your success so far, and good luck in the future. And thank you to all the panelists, to all the participants that joined us today. Please use those links, email me, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. So I think that brings us to the end. So thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.